Trials are meant to be a way to seek justice. You gather evidence, call witnesses, and hear arguments. But what happens when the person on trial is a literal corpse? Well, that's exactly what happened in 896 AD, when Pope Stephen VI decided to put his predecessor, a dead man, on trial. To understand why Pope Stephen VI lost his mind and dug up a dead guy, we need a little backstory. This was an era where the papacy was basically a revolving door of popes, each getting replaced faster than a new iPhone model. Assassinations, political coups, and even exiles were all part of the job. Between 872 and 965 AD, Rome had 24 popes. That's almost one pope every 4 years. And then we have Pope Formosus, a well-respected and intelligent leader. But here's the problem. He got caught up in a massive political feud between two powerful factions, the pro-Frankish supporters and the pro-Italian faction. Formosus fled Rome and was excommunicated, but don't worry about that. He returned to Rome sometime around the 880s and was absolved under Pope Marinus I, who restored him to see his Porto Santa Rufina in 883. Formosus would die 13 years later in 896 AD. Enter Pope Stephen VI, a man with one of the pettiest vendettas in history. He was put into power by the anti-Frankish faction, or I guess the pro-Italian faction? It depends on the way you look at it. Either way, this meant he absolutely hated everything Formosus stood for. But rather than, moving on with his life, Stephen did something unprecedented. He ordered Formosus' body to be exhumed, dressed in papal robes and dragged into court for what would become the most insane trial in history. So, imagine this. You walk into a courtroom in 897 AD expecting a regular day of corrupt medieval politics. And instead, you see a rotting corpse, propped up on the throne, wearing papal robes. Pope Stephen VI was dead serious about this trial. No pun intended. He screamed accusations at Formosus' body, blaming him for breaking church laws and being a bad pope. Now, here's where things get even weirder. Because corpses don't usually have a strong legal defense, Stephen assigned a deacon to speak for Formosus, meaning this poor guy had to pretend a skeleton was answering questions. Shockingly, the dead guy lost, and the court found Formosus guilty of all charges. And for his punishment, Stephen ordered his papal garments to be torn off, his 3 fingers to be cut off because those were his blessing fingers, and his body to be buried beside the foreigners. And don't worry, it gets worse. Upon hearing that Formosus' body had been buried, Stephen VI ordered for his body to be dug up again and thrown into the Tiber River. Now, here's the thing about desecrating a pope's body. People usually don't like it. The people of Rome were absolutely horrified. The backlash was so intense that within a year, Stephen VI was overthrown, imprisoned, and, plot twist, strangled to death. A few years later, Pope Theodore II came in and was like, yeah, that was a bit too much. So he ordered for Formosus' body to be fished out of the river, reburied him with honors, and officially erased from the trial from the church records. And just like that, the Cadaver Synod went down in the history as one of the most unhinged, ridiculous, and wildly unnecessary events of all time. So, what's the lesson here? Maybe that medieval politics were an absolute dumpster fire. Maybe that grudges can last even beyond the grave. Or maybe just don't put a corpse on trial. And if you enjoyed this sinister piece of history, make sure you like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories you won't believe actually happened.